Hi, my name is Lee Markham. I sing tenor with the Heralds of Harmony, a barbershop chorus located in Tampa, Florida. And since we're all under quarantine right now, I thought now would be a great time to chat with some of my fellow Heralds, find out how they got involved with barbershop, and why it's great to be a Herald. Enjoy! Mr. Shane Scott.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good, sir. How you doing?
Oh, just enjoying this lovely day here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I know it's a little rough.
Yeah,
Thunderstorm woke me up at 6 a.m.
yeah.
What's
I,
going on? How are you handling all the quarantine chaos?
it's okay. I live alone like you do, and so when you're really extroverted, when you're extroverted people like us, it can be a challenge. But hanging in there. Got a lot of good people checking in on me and looking after me. So
That's great. Well, it gives you plenty of time to read all those books behind you too.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Have
that's
you have
that's
you read all those books?
Well, I read a lot of them, but a lot of them, it's kind of like when you go into a guy's garage and he's got a big tool bench. He may not have used all of them, but he has them there if he needs them. That's my
I
excuse.
see.
Yeah.
All right. They look very good. So, well, you're our first interview here for the, I don't know if we're kind of doing a Meet the Heralds type of thing here. So,
Sure.
just kind of finding out everybody's backgrounds and whatnot. So, you are a fellow tenor with the Heralds of Harmony, but I'm not really sure how you got your start with barbershop. How did it all start for you?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a church environment in which we did congregational four-part a cappella singing. So I was just, raised with an ear for close harmony kind of music. And then I went to a little school that's over in Temple Terrace called Florida College, where a lot of the members of Showtime, which is a phenomenal Sweet Adeline quartet that won the Sweet Airline Championship in the early 90s, a lot of them went there and I would meet them. They would often come and perform on campus. So I really loved the sound of it. And so a few years after that, in the mid 90s, I was at a music store that specialized in CDs of music from, the Tin Pan Alley era and so forth. Very odd music store. And I saw these CDs that had Norman Rockwell paintings on the front of them that said barbershop music. Well, I subsequently learned that what I was buying was the 1991 and 1992 top 20 quartet contest recording. So I put the 92 CD in the car, and the first song, oh well, there's a place I long for. So it was Keepsake doing Way Down Yonder in New Orleans, and then Roses of Picardy. And when I heard Roses of Picardy, that was that was the injection into my bloodstream.
Right, right.
So then I still didn't join the society, but I wore those two CDs out trying to sing along with them. And then finally in 1998, I made a New Year's resolution that I would join the closest local chapter. Where I was living at the time was up in Northwest Indiana. And so the closest chapter was over in Valparaiso, Indiana. It's called the Masters of Harmony, but not the big Masters of Harmony. And
Okay.
so that was my first chapter. I joined in 1998 in March, and then that same year ended up being hired to come back and teach at Florida College. So just a few months after before I joined the Heralds of Harmony. And so, Lee, my first chapter show as a barbershopper was the Herald show in the summer of 1999, and the headline acts were Platinum, Gas House Gang, and Michigan Jake.
That's a pretty good show.
That was a pretty good
Good
show.
lineup.
Yeah. And
So
so
what
then that's how I got started.
well, so when you pop those CDs in, did it register in your brain? I'm hearing something different that I'm used to. What are these harmonies? Did you pick up on that?
Well, in a way, it didn't because as I said, I grew up singing a lot of close harmony, and I grew up playing in the orchestra and being around music a lot. So, but what I will say is that what I could tell is there was something about barbershop chords that I really loved. It was
Right.
just like candy to my ears, you
Yeah.
know. And so that would be the thing that just really arrested me. It wasn't that I was totally unfamiliar with it. It was just I was getting a whole lot, a mega dose of a sound that I really, really, really liked.
Right. And did you always sing tenor? Did you try other parts?
I've sang tenor when I first joined the society. I would often at church sing the alto part, which is, basically kind of the same voice register as barbershop tenor. And then when I left Tampa and I moved up to the Chicagoland area, I joined the New Tradition Chorus, and they had an abundance of tenors. And so I switched over to the lead part, which I really enjoy just because it made me try to work on developing more of my voice. Uh, but then that's also the reason I disliked it, because I had to work really hard to
Yeah.
to get that range
I go
in
back
there.
to what I know.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then since I've been with the Heralds, uh, I've sung everything but bass. I sang lead when I first got here because again we had a lot of tenors, and then I sang baritone, and now I'm in the tenor part. But I really do enjoy. Of course, the bass is not an option, but I really do enjoy trying to sing the other parts.
Sure.
They each have their own uh, enjoyable aspects and also real challenges. But tenor is probably my natural part.
Yeah, yeah. And you sing tenor with Lunch Break. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, that's
How
right.
did you guys meet? What's the journey with those guys?
Yeah, it was really coincidental or providential, depending on how you look at things. But I moved to Nashville in 2005, and within just a couple of months, all of the original members of Lunch Break happened to move into Nashville at the same time. Mike actually moved in a little bit earlier. Mike O'Neill, he's our bass, because at the time he was working for the Society, and the Society had just relocated to Nashville. So they went on ahead and relocated him, even while the headquarters structure was still in Kenosha. And then just a couple of months after that, Eddie moved in, Eddie Holt from New York, and Drew moved in from Memphis. So we all just happened to move in approximately the same time. And then we all became a part of the Music City Chorus, and we all became section leaders. So we were spending some time together working on, that aspect of the chorus. And then we just thought, well, hey, since we're doing so much singing together anyway, maybe we can do some like lunchtime gigs and so forth. So we did a few business things. Um, and then at the 2007 Denver convention, we all got together for supper one night, and everybody else but me was in another quartet. Well, I guess I had just stepped out of a quartet, and everybody else had been in one, but Mike suggested, hey, why don't we try to slap some songs together and just go have fun at the Dixie contest?
Hmm.
So that's what we did in 2007, and we were very fortunate to just by the skin of our teeth win the district contest. And then I think all of the guys realized, hey, this is a different kind of barbershop experience than any of us had ever had trying to do comedy. And it was a lot of fun. And so let's just keep going. So that's how we kind of got started as a quartet.
And where was that original thought to let's start with the comedy stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, my memory may not be correct, but I feel like the initial grain of thought for that was we were hanging around in the lobbies in Denver. And at that point in time, almost every quartet, it seemed like, was singing Good Luck Charm because, OC Times had done such a great job with it. And it
Sure.
was getting on my nerves that so many people were singing it. And so I made up like the first two lines of a parody. And I said, hey guys, somebody should sing this parody and kill this song. And so we laughed about it. And that's kind of then how the ball got rolling for kind of doing comedy. So I guess you could say, Lee, that it grew out of sheer hate and malice, which is not very good, I guess.
That's what you want from music. It's just hate and malice, especially in barbershop.
That's right.
And and you guys competed several years on the international stage. And I know with other comedy quartets, Newfangled Four and Fred, that it seems to take sometimes it can take a little longer to climb the ranks as a comedy quartet than a traditional quartet. Why do you think that is? Do you think the judges focus more on the comedy and less on the music? Do you think they're judged differently?
Yes, I think that we we were a quote unquote comedy quartet from the start. And I'll never forget one time, I think this was our third, it was either our second or third prelim contest. we had been around for a while, and we would, bang at right about an 80, give or take. I mean, I'm talking about our total score would be right around an 80 somewhere. And our singing was always our worst category, but they would be sort of like 78 something, right in there, 77, 78. And I remember we went to a prelim contest, and one of the singing judges scored us in the upper 60s. So, like, not only are you not that good, you really even don't have much business singing in public, like, at least on a contest stage.
There's
And
that hate
so,
and malice you were talking about earlier.
yeah, that's right. And so, and he was really out of line with the other singing judge. So we got to evals, and we were just wondering, what in the world did you hear? Because, even a bad score, if you get a good eval out of it and the judge can tell you something to improve, that's great, because
Sure.
that's what this is all about, right? But I mean, he essentially said to us, I mean, this is actually almost a word for word quote. Well, I just thought you were some cute comedy quartet. So, in other words, as soon as we came out and started comedy, he already decided what our singing score was going to be. So,
Right.
I think that one of the things that Newfangled Four and Stormfront really did very smartly is they started as more conventional quartets who would have a little fun here and there, but really established a good baseline of singing. And of course, I'm not saying we could sing nearly as well as either of those quartets, but what I am saying is they were able to establish sort of street cred as just really good, solid singing quartets. Then they could layer in the comedy, and I think that's a really effective way to do it.
Right. Let the audience get to know you guys, then incorporate the comedy.
Right.
Although
The other
I don't think anybody would be upset about lunch breaks, comedy performances from the start. So
Sure. Well, the other thing about that, though, that also makes it hard to make that climb is, like, there's an old saying that, uh, you take a lifetime for your first hit. The really big problem is trying to come up with a second hit, like in
right.
music. And in comedy, you know, I had all of my life, enjoying comedy, to be in a quartet the first time around to try to do something funny, but to try to come back year after year with something fresh and something new for the audience is extremely difficult. It's very
Sure.
challenging. That's one of the reasons I always just have so much admiration for Fred, because they just seem to have an almost infinite repertoire of comedy that they could come back with year after year. So that is another challenge to it for sure.
Well, and that kind of transition to my next question is, you guys were stayed together for many years. And I'm going to ask Roger and Tony the same question, but what does it take to keep a quartet together?
Yeah. Well, different people have different motivations, I'm sure. And I think some people are, more motivated by the end product, and other people are just wired differently and are more motivated by relationships. And I think that really our relationships as friends, more than anything else, is what kept us together. Because we certainly faced, rough patches. We our second to last contest we were in, we were just not ready. We thought we were, that's the way it kind of always goes, but we were not. And we had gone from 13th, 12th, 11th 2 years in a row, and then dropped to, I think it was 16, 15 or 16. And, I think for a lot of other quartets, that would have basically been the end. But we were just determined, no, we're going to end on our own time in terms when we feel like we just, we can't do this anymore, rather than let scores dictate who we are as a quartet.
Sure.
That's just never been who we were. And so, that's what we did. And we ended up coming back and finally breaking into the 10 that last time. And then the reason that we had to stop competing is because I moved to Florida. KJ, who had become our baritone a few years earlier, had moved up to New York State. And I know that some quartets can do this with no problem, but for us, especially trying to do comedy to get the timing and the interactions down, we just didn't think there was any way we would be able to try to rehearse effectively.
Sure. Well, now everybody's having to deal with that using
Yeah, right.
Zoom. It's like we have no other option now. So
Yeah, exactly right. But just to put a period on that, when my wife passed away, we had gone up to Tennessee to sign paperwork for a clinical trial, and then to go to the mountains for a few days before that started. And it turned out that her condition had already deteriorated too much. So all of the members of Lunch Break, Drew, the original baritone, um, Eddie, Mike, and KJ all came in. KJ had his little girl, Stella, who was about a year and a half old at that point, and his wife was on assignment and could not watch her. So, KJ packs up his girl and comes, and all of them came just to be with me for those last couple of days. KJ was literally with me uh, at my back when Christy passed away. So those are the relationships that really, I think, drove us and forged us as a quartet. And if we were still living together, if we hadn't all scattered away, I think we would have still, kept trying to go with competition, because we just loved trying to go out and entertain people so much.
Sure.
But anyway, so yeah, we were definitely, what kept us together as a quartet were those, those relationships. And scores, although we were really trying to, always improve and compete as best as we could, that wasn't the primary driving force for us.
Right. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to meet KJ. I forget which convention it was. It might have been Kansas City Internationals. Haven't met the other guys yet, so I hope to meet them again, or hope to meet them sometime. And I know I was excited when I first walked into Heralds and saw that you were there. I didn't know who I was going to see there. I had heard of Heralds I was in Orlando at the time, and I just knew Tony was in charge of the group and, as director, and that's all I knew. So it was kind of cool to walk in and I'm like, oh, I know that guy.
Sure.
And you've been with the Heralds for a while, like you said. What's when you walk into rehearsal Monday night, what are you looking forward to with the Heralds?
Yeah, well, that kind of relates to the other question you just asked. I'm as much as I love music. I mean, I really do truly love people more than that. And so I just love being around with the guys and, goofing off. And how you start to develop little inside jokes, especially like, when you're on our side of the chorus and you have little things that you do. Those are the things that, I mean, I just really enjoy the camaraderie. It's the closest thing for me. When I was in high school, my favorite sport was basketball, but I didn't quite have the physique for that. So I was a manager. But I just have always loved being a part of a team and having that camaraderie and doing it together in something that you love. And so to me, when you combine that with the chords that I fell in love with as a child and then really fell in love with when I first heard that CD, then to me, that's just the best of both worlds,
Yeah, I know. It's hard to explain barbershop to people that aren't in the
really.
world. Even people that like music don't quite get it. But it's that same thing. I usually say 50% of it is the music, and the other 50 is that brotherhood, that camaraderie
That's right.
feeling. So I know we're all missing our Monday night rehearsals. We've been doing Zoom rehearsals every Monday, but
Right.
sometime we'll be back together again.
That's right. And I think that actually it's interesting that I've played different styles of music, but I think there is something about barbershop harmony. I mean, it's almost like the closeness of the harmony
Hmm.
and the way that a chord just slams together when it really locks. It's almost like the music forces you to come together as people. I think that's the
Oh,
thing that I really like about it, is just almost the style itself just viscerally draws you together.
that's a great way of putting it. I'm going to start using that now. Well, thank you, sir, for your time today, and hope you stay dry. And I look forward to seeing you in person again soon.
I feel the same way, Lee, and thank you so much for doing this. And I'm really excited to get to know you better, and also some of the other guys that you'll be interviewing.
Definitely, definitely. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds great, buddy.
See ya.
See you, buddy.